Welcome to Knightline Extra on the award-winning Knightline Sports Network.
Welcome, Night Nation, to the Bowl Preview edition of Knightline Extra, which you're hearing exclusively on the Knightline Sports Network. My name is Adam Eaton, and on this particular episode, we will get you ready and primed for the Gasparilla Bowl, UCF Knights versus the Marshall Thundering Herd. That game is on Monday the 23rd, 2:30 p.m. kickoff time from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. If you can't get out to the stadium, turn on ESPN. The game will be on there. UCF and Marshall are playing for the first time since 2012. We were conference mates in Conference USA and MAC, so there is a history of us playing each other. So it's, at least if we couldn't get a big name Power 5 type opponent, we do have a team that we've got some history with and some fun history with that. UCF Mike will join me later on to recap some of that history. We'll also talk to a Marshall insider, and you'll hear directly from Marshall head coach Doc Holliday on this matchup as well. Before we get to that, let's reset what we're looking at here. Again, the Knights coming in 9-3 out of the American Conference. Marshall's 8-4 coming in out of Conference USA. This will be the first time these teams have played since 2012. And it features a matchup of two different styles. Marshall is probably a more defensive-minded team, not as explosive on offense. And obviously UCF has a pretty explosive and powerful offense. If you're trying to figure out what to do with this game from betting perspective, UCF is a 17.5-point favorite, and the over-under is 61, which is an interesting mark to think about. On the UCF side, there are still some unknowns. Gabe Davis, as you know, is declared for the NFL draft. There has been no formal announcement, but all indications would seem to think that he is not going to play in this game, but I guess we will wait and see. Coach Heupel was asked that during his press availability on Tuesday and really offered no comment and said he'd discuss that later. So as it stands, we don't have an update on some of the seniors or some of the guys who are leaving and whether or not they'll be playing in this game. So stay tuned for that. But again, it should be a fun matchup. I know some of us were looking forward to potentially a big Power 5 matchup. But Marshall is it's a good long-term rival for us, a team we've played in the past, and so it should be good to kick this series off again. If you can get out to Tampa, again, Monday, 2:30 kickoff, probably one of the most inopportune times for kickoff, but who the hell cares? It's a Monday, it's football, it's the last game of the season. UCF has a chance to get to 10 wins, which would be another consecutive double-digit win season. That would be our third in a row, and so good things to cheer on. Again, if you can't get it out there, 2:30 ESPN is how you can find the game. Coming up next, though, who is Marshall? What are they doing? Who are the key names you need to know? And everything in between. I welcome a Marshall insider to give us more, inside. Coming up next, Knightline Extra.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Every child in Central Florida deserves a toy at Christmas. But unfortunately, not every local family can provide that Christmas cheer. Hearts Helping Others of Central Florida is once again teaming with local businesses for their annual toy drive, and we need you. For years now, Hearts Helping Others of Central Florida has supported local Central Florida families in need with many programs, providing food, clothing, resources, and services. They do this regardless of the income bracket of the family, because every family could be just one paycheck away from financial disaster. During the holidays, things can be even worse for these families in need. For the next 2 weeks, you can drop off new unwrapped toys for ages newborn through 17 years old at one of our many drop-off locations. These include 5-Day Cabinets in Castleberry, O'Reilly Auto Parts in Apopka, Stefano's Restaurant in Winter Springs, Shovelhead Lounge in Longwood, and First Institute in College Park. The toy drive supports local families that may need a little help at this time of the year, and you, our Central Florida residents and local businesses, have a chance to provide the toys Hearts Helping Others will give away in its holiday support program this month. You can also donate financially through their website at heartshelpingotherscfl.com. Become a donor for the holidays or a monthly partner. Find us on Facebook or PayPal at heartshelpingothers7@gmail.com. Hearts Helping Others. We can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone.
All right, Gasparilla Bowl, UCF and Marshall. It's been a while since we've seen these guys. Obviously, we were conference mates a few years back, but we haven't played since 2012. So let's get reacquainted. And to do that, happy to welcome in Aaron Perkins. He is the publisher of HerdNation.com, which is a rival site. So, Aaron, I know it's also signing day, so I'm sure you're pretty wrapped up with everything going on there. So I appreciate you taking some time to join us here tonight on Knightline Extra to preview the Marshall game.
Oh, thanks for having me. I look forward to it.
Well, let's start big picture with Marshall for a second. So, this year so far 8-4. This is coming off of a 9-4 season last year and a win in the Gasparilla Bowl. So, oddly enough, you've been there before. How would you assess this season so far? What were the expectations coming in based off of last year, and how do you think Marshall kind of lived up to those expectations so far?
Well, we've had the same conversation with a lot of our fans, and it's an odd way to look at it this year. Definitely expected bigger. Before the season started, everyone would have been disappointed at 8-4. However, 2 games in, we're down 2 starting wide receivers and a starting running back, and our starting linebacker, former 4-star guy Jake Yulee, who was originally going to Alabama, and so from that point, everything changed. Our wide receiver position was not very deep anyway, so we had to completely revamp what we were doing. Our breakaway running back was gone. Granted, Brendan Knox is our starter, but Tyler King could do everything. Doc Holliday would call him, a 1%er every now and then. Only 1% of players he's had were ever that good. And but he's gone. One of our wide receivers is back, Obi Obialo. But so we completely changed everything, and it was a rough start. And then we had a great run that had the loss to Charlotte stuck in the middle. And you never want that to happen. It was in a torrential downpour. I've sat it through a lot of rain, and that was some of the worst I've ever sat through. And couldn't score, couldn't move the ball, and got beat. And then had to take care of business the next week to try to get into the championship game, and we did. Unfortunately, FAU also took care of business, so here we are, getting ready to play what I've said is the single toughest team we have ever played in a bowl game throughout our school history, and it happens to be you guys that we have a good history with. Well, we have a history with. It has started off good, and since that point, of course, has not been good. But a history nonetheless. A history of not a lot of good will, a lot of ill will between the two. We have definitely missed playing you all.
Yeah, it's been fun actually kind of looking at this matchup. I think, from the UCF side, of course, we were hoping we'd get some big Power 5 opponent and all this stuff, right? And then, we draw you guys. And I think for a lot of the fan base particularly the older fan base who's been around a while, this is a fun matchup because, back in the early, early 2000s, I suppose, and kind of the mid 2000s, this was a big rivalry. This was the big game every year. Marshall was the team that UCF beat to break their 17-game losing streak. There was the monsoon game in Orlando, and so there's been some pivotal moments. So this is a fun matchup. How does, I guess you kind of mentioned, the toughest opponent. How was UCF perceived nowadays by Marshall fans? We're always, I guess we're a little sensitive as a fan base, and obviously the last couple of years we've been kind of fighting for respect, quote unquote, and so the national narrative towards us is always interesting to me. How was Marshall perceived, or how was UCF perceived rather by Marshall fans and sort of the fan base at large?
Well, what we want to be right now. What we expected to be a measuring stick for our fans who aren't happy is look where UCF was when we first started playing them. Look where they are now compared to where we are. Personally, I do not think that is a fair comparison at all. You guys have 50,000+ students, recruiting hotbeds, great weather, and we don't. and all we have is history. And so, that's primarily the way they're looked. I still do not think, a lot of Marshall fans are always rooting for the Group of Five schools, except for this one. I can honestly say, myself included, I do not like the SEC, but I didn't necessarily want you guys to beat Auburn a couple years ago. So, but I like that. That's what I like about sports. I would much rather play 11 teams or 12 teams a year that I hate than 12 teams that I don't care one way or the other about. I like UCF fans and the way they talk trash. I've got a couple, one guy I consider a friend. Met him, one of the games up here, he stopped by our tailgate, hung out with him, and we text constantly now about football and everything. So it's met him from your rivals board. But UCF just, like I said, it's where Marshall fans for the most part want to be and think they should be.
I listened to Doc Holliday's press conference today, and he had a lot of questions asked of him about UCF's tempo from the media. Is that a concern for Marshall coming to this game, just facing the tempo and sort of the fast break nature of UCF's offense?
I think it's definitely a concern. Defensively, we do run a lot of players on the field up front. We're a lot deeper across the front four than what you would think a Conference USA school would be. I remember a game, well, pretty much any game you watch, by the time our third series is over with on defense, we will have ran 11 defensive linemen in there. So that's one good thing that's going to help in this case. I don't think we're having a problem with that. It's speed everywhere else. Our linebackers are not as fast as what they need to be to play against your offense. I think it's going to be a challenge. I wish you'd come out and try to run the ball and try to play, big bad almost P5 school against us. I think that would definitely play into our strengths. But then I read an article today where they're ranking the top 80 quarterbacks in bowl games, and your true freshman's 11th. So that was not a very good thing for us. Our defensive backs are experienced, but they're not playmakers, and we are down 2 safeties from the start of the season. So, like I said, go back to the original question. When our Marshall fans happy with 8-4 before the season? If you told them we're 8-4, absolutely not. 4 games into the season, any rational fan would be perfectly fine with 8-4. So, but back to the tempo, it's going to be a challenge. That's what you guys do. That's what you've always done. We do face a lot of it in Conference USA, but definitely not this type. Even Boise, came off running nearly 100 plays, I think, against Florida State, and we were fine with their tempo. But I don't think it's nearly on par with what you guys are going to bring.
Well, let's stay on the defensive side of the ball for a second. So 2 guys that jumped out to me when I watched a little bit of game film and a little bit of the box score, Amari Cobb and Darius Hodge. How big are those 2 guys going to be? And Cobb particularly, 17 tackles for loss this year. How disruptive is he on the defensive side?
Well, Hodge, very disruptive, but he is, I don't know. I had a guy send me a link today from something Colorado's coach, or their new coach, had said about he was going to stop looking at what somebody could do, and he was really going to start getting back into recruiting towards size. And, he was talking about defensive ends. And he was talking about, having a 6'3", 235, 240 pounder, even though he's good, when he gets up against the big time offensive tackles, it doesn't matter. The size hurts. And that's where Hodge has a little bit of a problem. He's smaller. Guys got muscles in spots where I didn't even know human beings had muscles. I mean, it's amazing to look at the kid, and he is quick, but he plays so hard that, after the game, if you look up the final stats, he may only play 25 snaps. I mean, he goes full bore against somebody 100 pounds heavier than him every play, and he doesn't stop. And if you let him be disruptive, he's going to be disruptive. As fast as you guys run, and when you do pass, it seems like you get the ball out of the quarterback's hands pretty quick. So that will probably, alleviate some of his strengths. But he's definitely he can definitely be a difference maker. He basically flipped the game last year against USF, and was a difference maker then in the Gasparilla Bowl.
What about Amari Cobb?
Tall linebacker. My thing with Amari is he's always in. I find myself yelling at him multiple plays. Just throw your hands up in the air. I mean, he's a 6'5" linebacker who gets pressure on the quarterback a lot. And if his hands would just go up in the air, he'd bat down 4 passes a game. But he's been here for 4. He's a true senior, big guy, playing a little out of position. Had to move inside when Yulee got hurt. He would have been outside, probably even would have stepped up and played a little rush defensive end every now and then, but he kind of got forced back over into the middle. But he's another one that both of those guys are definitely playmakers.
Let's switch to offense. How would you describe quarterback Isaiah Green? What does he do really well, and then what does he maybe struggle with from that standpoint?
Isaiah Green is misunderstood, I think would be one term. A lot of times fans forget that he is a sophomore. A lot of times fans forget that he still only lost 2 conference games in his entire career as a starter. He finds ways at the end to lead comebacks or hold on to wins if he can get us to that point. However, in our losses, he has been very, very bad. All 4 losses this year, he was just a bad quarterback. Except at middle, he had 4 bad plays, and those were the 4 turnovers he had. The other, 70 plays he ran, he put up nearly 500 yards by himself, running and throwing. And, he can do that when he's seeing the read option, when he's running it well. We're dangerous. When he's not, we're not. But I think a quarterback, teams will come and go with the quarterback. I was listening to Golick and Wingo this morning, and they're talking about the quarterbacks getting credit for a win, and one of them didn't think they should. But at the end of the day, they touch the ball every time, and they definitely control the game. And we're going to come and go with him. As good as Brendan Knox and Obi Obialo and our tight ends can be, if Isaiah Green plays well, we're going to be in it at the end. If he doesn't, we're not.
Let's talk about Knox for a second. What kind of runner is he, and what should UCF's defense expect from him?
When I say this, don't call me stupid, because I am not comparing him to this guy as being this good. I consider him more of a Emmitt Smith type of a runner. He's going to, for the most part, run straight ahead, always fall forward, never get tackled backwards, gain at least 3 yards for you, and bust 5 or 6 during a game, but he's probably going to get caught from behind. That's Brendan Knox's game. And then you're going to look up at the end of the game, he's going to have 125 yards.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. He's just not that flashy guy. He's not going to bust too many. I mean, he may get one every now and then, but he's not going to outrun too many to the end zone. He's probably going to get caught if anybody even has close to an angle. Not knocking his speed. He's rushed for. He's already one of our top rushers ever, and but he's as a sophomore, so surprisingly has been a very good find from Ohio, actually, which we don't usually. You would think we recruit Ohio hot, but there's so many MAC schools and Big Ten area. We don't usually get very many talented players from that area.
Yeah, he's got almost 1,300 yards in the season, so.
Yeah.
How would you? So a lot of teams that we saw this season. So they really try to ball control UCF, right? We played Houston, which you would think is an up-tempo offense with the Dana Holgerson system there. And they try to ball control the entire game. I mean, they must have run, 15, 16 plays a drive sometimes. And so we see a lot of teams ball control to sort of keep us off the field and keep the tempo at bay. I know we've talked a little bit about what Marshall might do defensively to kind of quell the tempo. What do you expect offensively? Do you think you'll see a ball control attack and try to keep UCF off the field? Or do you think they'll run their basic packages and worry about all that stuff later?
That is our basic package.
Okay.
And that is one of the things that our staff gets hounded on, but that I give them credit for changing to. If you went to any of the preseason, events, donor events and whatever, what have you, and listen to the coaches talking before the season started, last year the defense won football games for us. This year they fully expected our offense to win football games for us. Well, that changed when we lost so much explosion early, and they had to switch on the fly. And that's what we've become, is a team that, we want to try to get out early and then go take the air out of it and hope at the end of the game we get an extra possession to try to score on you and win. That's just the way it's been every game. There hasn't been one that hasn't been that way. FAU was a little different, but we got a few bigger plays, but out of our base sets, we weren't attempting to do anything. It just happened, because, they busted a few plays. FAU's defense wasn't that good that day. But Western Kentucky, we bolted out to a quick lead, had to hit a 53-yard field goal at the end. But at the end of the day, we were in position to win. And that's what Coach Holliday does. And as long as the players are executing, the two conference games that we lost, I mean, it wasn't because we didn't have a game plan ready. It was just execution.
Let's talk about Coach Holliday for a second. So probably a little bit off topic from the actual bowl game, but this is his 10th year with Marshall.
Yep.
He's signed through 2021. How would you assess his tenure, and do you think he's sort of a long-term fit for Marshall?
Well, I would love for that to happen. When Doc came on board after the 2009 season, he told us, he let us know that, we were going to have some good teams, but he wanted to build us a program that we'd be proud of and get us back on even footing to where we weren't going to have too many down years. And we haven't. We had one year where it was just an odd year in 2016. It was just in the tank and things happened, but we never had those Southern Miss years where they went 0-12. He's got us back to where, I think one indication of his tenure is we have won 17 games in the last 2 years and fans are mad. So I think that's a sign of where he's got the program back to. So I would like to see him coach here for the next 10 years. I don't think he's got 10 years left in him. He's getting up in years, but I like what he's done, and some don't, but it's not the flashy Bob Pruitt type of offenses, UCF type of offenses, but it was going to be, and he just had to change. We don't have the depth of you guys. You lost a Heisman contender a year ago, and here you are, and we can't really afford that right now.
Let's talk about the game itself. So this is an odd quirk. Since 2011, this is the fourth time that you guys will be in Tampa for a bowl game. You were there for when it was called the Beef or Brady's Bowl, then it was the St. Pete Bowl, and now back-to-back Gasparilla Bowls. From a fan standpoint, what are you expecting, or what are you hearing in terms of folks traveling down for the game, and sort of people taking some time? It's a kind of an odd game, Monday, 2:30 Eastern time in the afternoon. What do you expect from a fan perspective to be out there in Tampa?
Well, first off, everybody that wants to go is definitely going to try. It's 18 degrees here today, and we've had 3 inches of rain the 2 days leading up to this. So we dealt with black ice all over the roads this morning. You guys may not even know what black ice is in Florida. I don't even know. But it's been – everybody's ready to go. The fact that it's a 2:30 kickoff is actually helping people because it allows people to get back at a halfway decent time on Christmas Eve, but definitely not the most ideal. The day before Christmas Eve, not the most ideal. Luckily, we have a pretty large I'd say a decent sized fan base and a ton of players from down there. So I think you'll see a great turnout as always when Marshall goes to a bowl game. So not what you guys bring from across the state, but still, we'll show up pretty well.
It's kind of odd to see a team go to the same bowl back-to-back years. Was there any disappointment from the Marshall perspective on going back to the exact same bowl that you were at last year?
I don't think, program-wise or fan-wise?
Either
program-wise, no. Any chance Doc has to go to Florida, he's taking it. He gets a chance to get these kids back again in front of their fans. Or in front of their families. He gets to use that in recruiting. Say, hey, I'm gonna get you back there minimum one time a year and possibly two. That helps. And fan wise, I don't know, 50-50. I think some people were kind of like you guys. We're not at your level, but we still wanted to play a P5 school. But I think we got the next best thing. And trust me, I do not like giving a lot of kudos to UCF, but I'm allowed to say that on here, right?
You are. No, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Well,
good.
I'm curious, where does your, and I totally respect it, by the way. I think you put it earlier really well, which obviously, I'd rather beat, our rival, the Cows, 12 times a year.
Right.
Where does your, distaste for UCF come from? Is it just past experiences of us playing each other?
Yeah. I mean, the first game, your quarterback says we won because the crown of the field was too big. That was classic. Then we get 05. I mean, God, having to stand there and watch you guys take the field goal or the goalpost off the field. I mean, I was there at the Citrus Bowl watching that happen. And then, a few years later, we have an epic meltdown and, up 20-7.
2000,
forget the yarder.
2009. Yep.
Yeah, forget to cover a wide receiver, and then we were in great position. I mean, that led to our coach getting fired. He wins that game. Who knows? We may not even have Doc Holliday as a coach right now, and then blown out in a couple weather games up here, and we lost the We Are Marshall game on I think it was I always call them short fat kickers.
Yep. Mike
Mike
Torres, walk off.
Yeah. I think we had you at 4th and 20 something on your own 30 on that last drive. So it's just been, one gut punch after another. And then we see you leave the conference and go to what you are. And then, the fan base was all, it was a younger fan base. So they were definitely big on the internet, better than us on the internet. I mean, geez, you guys were probably using, I don't even know, the GIFs or GIFs, whatever they're called, well before they've even made it to West Virginia. So you're better at that than us. So it's just been, we're ready to win.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Fans are ready to win.
No, I respect that, man. Like I said, it's been it's a really storied history between these two schools. So to your point earlier, right? Like there could have been a ton of other matchups, but when this one kind of got drawn, I was kind of like, okay, like there's some history here. This would certainly be some fun. So
it could have been worse. I think it could have been worse for both sides, and at least there's something. There's a story behind it
for sure. All right, I'll get you out of here in this question. I hate to do predictions because no one ever knows what the hell's going on. So let me ask it to you this way. If Marshall's going to win this game, they have to do what?
What you were talking about earlier. We have to control the clock, control the ball. We cannot turn the ball over. If we cannot turn the ball over and convert on third down, more than you convert on third down, then, analytics is going to help us be in the game at the end to win.
Fair enough. And last question: Does Matthew McConaughey still hang out in near Marshall?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I haven't seen him. You found him at a Texas game, I guess, but I haven't seen him in a while at anything. And I don't know if I don't anticipate that happening, but it sure was a fun run while he was here.
So it's funny. My co-host and I, we do another show together. He's never seen the movie. I have seen the movie. How would you, as a Marshall fan, somebody obviously bleeds green. How would you describe the movie? Is it factual enough for you? Is it just a good story? How would you describe the We Are Marshall movie?
Both. I remember the company I worked for, a lot of companies up here were buying the premiere. and basically renting out a theater before the movie even came out. You could buy it through Sam's Club, believe it or not.
Wow.
And you would go to the theater and you'd have a party and you'd watch the movie. And I remember going to it being scared to death to watch it because I'm not a crier and I don't like crying in front of family members. And I remember, watching that movie, I was more worried about crying than I was watching the movie the first time around. But I made it all the way to the end. But it's got just enough of both to be accurate enough to be good. And the important parts were definitely, unfortunately, real.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a lot of it was definitely a story, but I guess you have to do that, know. But I think it's definitely there's enough of it real that if somebody who's never watched it, they're not watching something that's completely made up.
Fair enough. No, it's a good flick, actually. It's only 49% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I thought was kind of low, but it was a good movie. So
it was.
If you need a primer for UCF fans, if you need a primer up to Marshall, that's probably not the right thing to watch. Maybe watch some of the older games. Maybe don't watch the movie. But either way, Aaron, I appreciate you hopping on, man. I really enjoyed the conversation, man, and you look forward to watching the game on Monday. And we should definitely keep in touch and make sure that we stay connected. But thanks again for joining us and giving us some insight on Marshall.
You can have me on anytime, even if we're not playing. I'll gladly come on and give you my opinion of UCF.
All right, I might. It depends. If we lose, I'll take you up on that. If we win, I don't know.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Aaron.
All right. Thanks for having me. Talk to you later.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley reminding you to tune in every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando for Knightline the morning after. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action. Once again, that's Knightline the morning after, every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando or TuneIn Radio. Go Knights and charge on.
Island H2O Live, a new wave of water park.
Experience the next generation of fun at Island H2O Live. You choose the music, you choose the lighting, and you choose where to share your memorable moments at Florida's newest and most immersive water park.
Island H2O Live.
Now open in Kissimmee, located off US 192 and State Road 429 on Inspiration Boulevard.
Island H2O Live.
All right, my thanks to the Marshall Insider for joining us. UCF Mike will be up in just a moment to give you 5 things that you need to know about Marshall, but let's hear a few things that come directly from the source, and that source being the head coach of Marshall, one John Doc Holliday. He met the media on Wednesday and had an opportunity to talk a little bit about the upcoming Gasparilla Bowl and what it means to his team and the matchup against UCF. Here are his opening remarks on what it means to play UCF and what he thinks of UCF.
As you all know, Central Florida is an excellent opponent. They got skill all over the place. We went to 2 of the Access Bowls the last 2 years, beat Auburn and played LSU with a freshman quarterback and played them right to the wire. So it'll be a great challenge for us. And I know as coaches we're looking forward to it. Our players are, and just got it. We've had up to this point we've had great preparation. It's going to have to continue, not only here today and tomorrow morning, but also when we get down there. So looking forward to playing them.
All right, obviously very favorable remarks from Coach Holliday on the upcoming game and what UCF poses from a challenge perspective. Now, how is he preparing his team, and what does Marshall need to do to really beat UCF? Well, here are his thoughts on the game plan and what has to happen for them to win.
Well, I think anytime you play a team like that, number one, you got to take care of the ball. You can't give them extra possessions, and the other thing is offensively, you hit it. I mean, you got to convert on third down. We got to stay on the field on third down, and defensively, we got to find a way to get them off the field on third down. So I think third downs are going to be a key to this game, both offense and defensively, of converting for us and getting them off the field on third down and then taking care of the football offensively. We can't give them an extra possession, and then the kicking game is going to be critical because you got to give them long fields. You got to change the field position with the punt. And you've got to be able to kick off and cover kicks and with the return game as well. So, field position will be a big thing against these guys.
One of the challenges with facing UCF is obviously we run a different kind of offense. We move faster than almost any team in the entire country. And so a lot of questions came from the media about how Coach Holliday thinks his team matches up with that, and specifically if there are any common opponents that maybe they've played this year that they think matches really well with what UCF did to help them compare. So here are Coach Holliday's remarks about similar opponents and whether or not that they've seen a style like UCF's before.
I mean, they got really good players. I mean, they're one of the top, group of 5 teams, and they've been a top 15 team the last 2 years, at the end of the day. So, I mean, that's what they look like. They look like I heard, I think Lane Kiffin said after FAU played them this year, they look like an SEC team, and they do. They got those kind of players. And, you got some coach here sitting blowing smoke. I mean, go watch the tape. I mean, that's the reason they've won, 30-plus games or whatever it's been the last 3 years, because they got really good players and they're well coached. Randy does a great job with their defense. Of course, they're well coached offensively, and so they'll be a handful for us. But you know what? Our kids like challenges. We like that. So we're looking forward to going down and playing an excellent opponent and give it our best shot and see what happens.
One of the main themes towards the end of the remarks from Coach Holliday was a lot about the tempo of UCF. The local media there seemed really interested in how Marshall is preparing for UCF's tempo and kind of what UCF's tempo means. Obviously, that's a key to the game I think some folks are cluing in on. So what did Coach Holliday have to say about UCF's tempo and what that means? Well, he said this.
Oh, they're fast. I mean, you look up at times, and we're watching tape, and Brad and I and all of us, and they're snapping the ball with 35 seconds on the play clock. I don't know how the hell you do that, but, there's only 40 seconds to begin with. So, they play really fast, and so they get, with 35 to 40 seconds. So you got to get lined up and, and again, that's great. All that tempo is great, but you got to be able to convert. And the thing we got to do is we got to find a way to get off the field on third downs. But they do a great job with tempo, and they do go fast. They run a lot of plays.
All right, next, UCF has a bunch of different skill players, and so a lot of questions were asked of Coach Holliday around what those skill players mean and how they will be used and what Marshall will do to try to slow those folks down. You know those names. Hopefully Marshall fans will soon, but here's how Coach Holliday is approaching that challenge.
Practice, and their tailbacks will line up everywhere. They got really talented tailbacks, so they'll line them up at wide out, and as you mentioned, and play a lot of empty stuff, and they play like 5 of them. They got 5 different backs that they play. So, our guys, and we get numbers in practice and that type of thing. So those are all things that we work on and prepare for, and our guys will have to do a good job identifying, find out where they are, and they're all skilled. They're the wideouts are like running backs, so it'll be a challenge for us to get that done.
All right, in this next clip, Coach Holliday talks a lot about the talent UCF has, and I think this is a really interesting clip to listen to, and how he describes the talent. The talented players that UCF has and sort of how that stacks up to what he's seen at least the last couple seasons. So let's check in on his assessment of UCF talent.
Well, we've played some talented teams. There's no doubt that they're as talented as anybody we've played. And but we've played we've played a lot of talented teams, and we've played against teams that have players similar to what they have. So, but they have probably more of them than anybody we've played to this date as far as skill goes, and they're of course they're good up front as well, offensively and defensively.
All right, well, how is Marshall preparing for that tempo that was referenced earlier? Coach Holliday was asked that specifically, and here are the things that the team is doing in practice and how he thinks his team will be ready to face UCF's tempo.
Well, we've done that. We started the first day of practice, and so you take we have a looks period every day that we take where our second offense goes against their defense, which I guess good on good as well as we can, running their stuff. And it's been all tempo from day one, going as fast as we can possibly go and getting lined up and going again. So we've done that not just against these guys. We've had other teams this year that we've had to prepare for that. So it's you got to get the stuff, you got to get them in, you got to get lined up, and you got to go play. When you get the opportunity to substitute, you got to be able to get kids in the game. So we got to do a good job with that.
All right, if you're sensing a theme here, one final question again about tempo, but this one specifically, how does Marshall plan to substitute, and how will the tempo itself impact their game flow? Listen up.
No doubt. As long as they don't substitute, you can't. As long as they don't substitute, then you can't match. So the thing is when the ball, if they go out of bounds on their sideline, that's like a substitution. So you got to be aware of what's going on with that. And as soon as they go out on their sideline, they got to run people in. So we've done that before. We've done it all year. So I don't see that being a problem. Our kids are in great shape, and we just got to we just got to find a way to get we got to find a way to get them stopped on third down, so we're not out there 10, 12, 14 play drives, and we can get guys in and out.
All right, overall, some complimentary words from Coach Doc Holliday from Marshall. A few things that stuck out to me in that press availability. Obviously, there's a lot of conversation about tempo, and so that's certainly something that must be on the minds of the folks who are in and around Marshall and covering Marshall, and how they're going to be able to keep up with UCF's tempo. What else was interesting is he referenced they got to stop UCF's 12, 13-play drives. I'm not sure if you've seen a lot of our games, but we don't get to a lot of 12, 13-play drives unless it's the fourth quarter, and we're about like 30, so I would say that might not be a challenge. It was also kind of funny. The other thing I took out of that, he mentioned specifically how Coach Randy Shannon has done a nice job, and then he tries to talk about the offense, and he's not sure which coach to actually give any credit to there. So he kind of went broad with the coaches there. But again, overall, good complimentary stuff. I think he brings back out that Lane Kiffin SEC talent comment, which obviously was a really good endorsement of the kind of talent UCF has, and obviously Marshall's played FAU, and so they know them well, and so it certainly seems like the respect for UCF's talent level is there. But we mentioned it later on is Coach Holliday is known for getting his teams ready for bowl games, and I suspect Marshall has been working hard and getting ready, and obviously you can hear a little bit about their practice habits. So what is that going to mean for game day? Only time will tell. Hopefully UCF shows up and is ready to play, because it sounds like Marshall is also ready to play. But you want to know more about Marshall. That's why you're here. So coming up next, UCF Mike joins us with his unique spin on 5 things that you probably know, maybe don't know, maybe need to know, or wish that you wouldn't know after you listen to it. UCF Mike, 5 things you need to know about Marshall, coming up right after this.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, The Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what The Little Greek can do for you. Also, check out The Little Greek's newest location at 6536 Old Brick Road in Windermere, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
All right, it's been a while since we've done one of these, but we have been hard at work finding you 5 things that you may or may not know about Marshall. We've played them a ton. They were obviously old conference foes twice over for us, so you've probably heard and know a bunch about them, but we dug deep in the archives to find a few things you maybe don't know or don't remember. So UCF Mike, the star of the Sons of UCF program, he joins me as always. Mike, why don't you kick it off and give us the first thing that we may or may not know about Marshall?
All right, this is the 12th meeting between UCF and Marshall, and it's the first time we're playing them since 2012. We had 7 years off against these guys. The two schools first played a bunch when we were members of the MAC and then Conference USA. The first 3 years we lost to them while we were in the MAC. That was between 2002 and 2004, and then we won the last 8 against these guys between 2005 and 2012. A lot of those games were pretty close games. Obviously, the 2006 game, we had Michael Torres kick the game winner, and we won that one 23-22. The 2009 game was the Brett Hodges to Rocky Ross wide open in the end zone, 21-20. 2011, known as the Monsoon game, we won that one 16-6. And then famously, the 2005 game where we tore down the goalpost to end the losing streak, we won that game 23-13. 17 games in a row we had lost going back to 2004. Overall, a lot of good history against these guys, a lot of fun times. I'm looking forward to playing them. I know a lot of people were complaining about it when the bowl was announced, but of all the other options, I think there was one of the best options we had left.
Yeah, you mentioned this, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. When we talked to Ryan Schneider a while back, we talked about the Cows, and he was like, no, man, Marshall was kind of the team that that he saw as our big rival back then. And those are some big time games back in those days, Mike, because they were, we were kind of up and coming. They were a premier team in some respects. They were kind of the little darling team, the what would now be a group of 5, star team at that point with Randy Moss and Chad Pennington, later on Byron Leftwich. They were certainly a team that people had a lot of attention to. So it was a big game for us in some of those times. And we had some really good games. We had a really good series. Obviously, the last 8 coming to UCF's way, which is great. But they've been a part of a lot of big moments in UCF history. I mean, the goalpost tearing down game, the monsoon game. Those are 2 epic, memorable games, particularly in UCF history.
Yeah, absolutely. The 2009 game, we had no business winning that game. We didn't do anything on offense the whole day, and we were down late. Bruce Miller with the strip sack, and they forget to cover Rocky Ross. I remember that game. I mentioned it was on at the same time as the World Series. The Yankees were happened to be in the World Series that year. I remember watching both of them. A lot of good memories against Marshall. I'm glad we're playing them.
Well, hopefully we come out with a win. All right, so here's the second thing you want to know about Marshall. So Marshall, the actual university, traces its name back to 1837, when it was originally called the Marshall Academy, named after former Supreme Court Chief Justice John Marshall. He is credited, of course, Mike, as I know you know, but he's been credited with establishing the broad interpretation of the U.S. Constitution of the law of the land, so something I'm sure you're familiar with. So we know how they were named Marshall, but how did they get the nickname the Thundering Herd? Well, that was decided under some really strange circumstances. So after briefly being referred to as the Indians pre-1900s, the school began to be known by the name the Big Green, obviously based on the color of their uniforms. However, in 1920, a sports writer began calling them the Thundering Herd, but people were upset about that and thought that the name was inappropriate because it didn't represent West Virginia, or John Marshall. Fair enough, I guess. So in 1933, another sports writer started referring to the team as the Booger Cats, which was an homage to the Scotland Boogie Cats, which I guess is a species of some sort. I'm not really sure. So with all those different options, the alumni called a vote, and what they decided on was, we can't decide. And basically they used both Thundering Herd and Big Green until they could have a more formal process. And then finally, the long nightmare came to an end, Mike. In 1958, the student body held a vote, and they were going to try to come up with a name, but instead of deciding on Thundering Herd or Big Green, they came up with the name the Green Gobblers. But apparently that wasn't very good. In 1965, all this madness came to an end. The students decided that Big Green did not denote any action, and so the Thundering Herd became the name of choice. So if you're scoring at home, you could call them either the Indians, the Big Green, the Boogie Cats, the Booger Cats, the Green Gobblers, or the Thundering Herd. You take your pick.
I would have stuck with Booger Cats. That sounds pretty cool. I think that would be cool now in 2020.
I think Green Gobblers would be interesting because the Virginia Tech, who is kind of one of their rivals, they play a little bit. I mean, they're the Hokies, right? Isn't that a bird of some sort of a turkey-ish animal?
Yeah.
I mean, so they could have had a natural rivalry, bird-on-bird crime. The Green Gobbler versus the Hokie or something. I don't know.
That would be cool. You're right. Well, a lot of interesting names. I've never heard of any of these before. I never really put much thought into Thundering Herd and how they got it. Cool little story.
There you go. Well, only on Knightline Extra, Mike. That's why we're here.
All right. Fact number 3 you need to know about Marshall. Many of you know that the movie We Are Marshall is based on a true story that chronicles the tragic plane crash in 1970 that resulted in the death of 75 people, including 37 players. In the movie, Matthew McConaughey plays head coach Jack Lingell, who was charged with coaching the team after the crash. In fact, the 2006 game at Marshall was played around the time when the movie was shot. Remember, McConaughey was there on the sidelines during that game. And when Michael Torres hit the game-winning field goal, he was there. And it was supposed to be a big party for them. And the movie, actually, you like the movie? You think it's good?
I mean, it's a good story. It'll give you a little tear-jerker situation at the end. Yeah, it's Remember the Titans-ish. You know what I mean? It's kind of a tear-jerker, not the most best football I've ever seen played, but it's a fairly decent movie.
All right. Well, in Hollywood, they take a few liberties and they change things around a little bit. And some things didn't actually happen in real life. First, the first game Marshall won after the crash was 15-13 over Xavier. In the movie, they showed the winning play to be a long crossing route. However, it was just a screen pass that won it. The movie also showed the cheer "We Are Marshall" that everybody knows. However, that cheer didn't start until the 1980s, which was well after the plane crash.
It was.
And the movie also leaves out that Jack Lingill was not the first coach to be hired after the tragedy. Instead, it was Dick Bestwick from Georgia Tech who was initially hired. He changed his mind after 2 days and went back to Tech. And if you haven't seen the movie, I believe Rotten Tomatoes has it as a 49% rating. So take that however you want, I guess.
I only put that fact in there to hear you say Dick Bestwick. That's really the only reason I did that entire thing for you. I just wanted to hear a Dick Bestwick drop from you.
It's a great name.
You are welcome. All right, here's the fourth thing you need to know about Marshall, and this is maybe a minor controversy, Mike. So I don't want to start something here, and I don't want to get people all fired up. But we were looking into Marshall, and we realized their head coach, his name is John Holliday, but he goes by the name Doc. So I searched all the available medical listings, and I can't find any record of this guy receiving a medical degree, Mike. So be warned, if you're looking for a doctor in the West Virginia area, I'm not sure this is the guy you want to see. Nonetheless, though, he is the head coach at Marshall. He's been there since 2010. He's got a 78-50 record, including, check this out, Mike, he's a perfect 6-0 in bowl games. So Doc here has never lost a bowl game. He's actually won like 2 Gasparilla / St. Petersburg bowls in his past. So 6-0 in bowl games. He spent almost 21 years as assistant coach at West Virginia before getting the Marshall gig. In 2019, his Marshall team is ranked 73rd in total offense, only averaging about 25 points a game. On the defensive side of the ball, they are ranked 44th overall, only giving up 23 points a game. So probably more of a defensive team than an offensive team. Obviously, we'll see how that plays out, the contrast of styles. But again, Doc Marshall, breaking news, maybe not a doctor.
Yeah, I didn't know his record in bowl games. That's pretty impressive.
6-0.
So he knows how to get his team prepared.
Well, hold on. Let me really quick. I actually had this pulled up, and I just closed the screen off real quick. Let me show you let me tell you the games he's won, just in case you want to get super excited about it. Actually, so that's the problem was you type in Doc Holliday, you get something other than that actual football coach.
Well, he's won more bowl games than we have as a whole school. We haven't won 6 bowl games, right? We've won what, 4 or 5?
That's a great. It's a great question. I think you're correct.
We won the Liberty was the first one in 2010. We won the Cure Bowl against Ball State. We won Fiesta. We lost in 2014. 2015 there was none. 2016 we lost. We won 17.
Didn't we win one of those Tampa Bowls?
Yeah, that was the Cure Bowl. The one against Ball State.
Oh, okay.
That was 2012.
Yeah. Huh.
So we won 2010, 2012, 2013. And 17. That's it. 4. We only won 4.
Jeez. All right. Well, here's John Holliday, Doc's bowl resume. In 2011, he won the Beef O'Brady's Bowl. In 2013, he won the Military Bowl. In 2014, he won the Boca Raton Bowl. 2015, he won the St. Petersburg Bowl. 2017, he won the New Mexico Bowl. And 2018, he won the Gasparilla Bowl. So I think Beef O'Brady's was played in Tampa. So he's won the Tampa / Bad Boy Mowers / St. Petersburg Bowl 3 times.
All right, so he's been here before. He knows exactly what he's getting into.
Yeah.
That's not something to just overlook, I think. That's a big key, I think, coming into this game.
Home field advantage, maybe. Who knows?
Hey, things like that don't happen by accident. 4 times, that's something. 6-0.
It's not nothing.
It's not a mistake. All right. The final fact. For the names you need to know about this game, Marshall, their quarterback's name is Isaiah Green. He threw for over 2,200 yards and 14 touchdowns this season. He also ran for 4 touchdowns. Their featured back is Brendan Knox, who ran for 1,280 yards and averaged 5 yards a carry. He scored 11 rushing touchdowns. They have some big boys on defense, including Omari Cobb, who had 17 tackles for loss on the season. Darius Hodge leads the team with 7 sacks. And Marshall appears sound in the kicking game. Jake Rohrwasser? Is that what you're saying?
Rohrwasser, I think.
Rohrwasser?
Yeah.
He made 85% of his field goals, and punter Robert Lefevre averaged about 41 yards a kick. So they've won, 8 games this year. They're not a bad team. I'll be honest, I watched them play one game this year, and it was early in the year against Boise State. And this was the week after Boise had beat Florida State and then put up a lot of points. These guys shut that Boise offense down in Boise. I think they only lost the game like 14-7.
You are correct,
so they can play a little bit. If you think we're just going to go in there and slap them around, then you got another thing coming. That's how the Arkansas State game happened. We can't go in with that kind of attitude against these guys.
So the opener, they beat VMI. They lost to Boise by 7. Then they beat Ohio. They got thrashed by Cincinnati, though, 52-14. Then they lost to Middle Tennessee State. They beat Old Dominion, FAU, Western Kentucky, Rice, La Tech. Then they lost to Charlotte, and then they beat FIU, by a field goal. So those are kind of the highlights of the schedule. They beat they beat FAU at home, 36-31. Obviously, we killed FAU at home. They got trounced by Cincinnati, 52-14. Obviously, we had a much closer game against Cincinnati. So two common opponents this year so far, Cincinnati and FAU. And well, we'll see how that shakes out.
I mean, we should win the game. We have a better team. I believe we're the biggest favorite in all bowl games this year.
We were. I was 17. I don't know if it still is, but we were at 17-point favorite, correct?
Right. So, I mean, we should win. We have a more talented team. But take into all the other factors into account. Gabe Davis is not playing. Who knows what other guys are skipping out on the game. This guy, Holiday, is 6-0 in his bowl games. He knows how to win in Tampa. He's done it 3 times already. He beat the Cows there last year. Our guys, if they're not focused coming into this game, all of a sudden it's like Tulsa all over again. So be ready. Be ready for a good game, I think. At least early. We got to put them away early. That's been the key. All the games at home, we got up on teams early. 14-0, 21-0 early in the games. If we can do that to these guys, put them away early, then I'll feel comfortable. If it's a game going into halftime, then I'm going to be a little nervous.
All right, Mike. Last time we'll do 5 things this season. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you hopping on these Knightline Extras. We obviously picked up this second real estate space this season. You can hear Mike and I each and every week on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning on the Sons of UCF show. Mike, man, enjoy the game, buddy, and we'll catch up on our show next week.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thanks for having me again.
All right. My thanks to Aaron Perkins from HerdNation.com, Marshall Insider, for joining me. Also to Coach Doc Holliday for providing his voice, although I'm not sure if he knows he provided his voice. And as always, UCF Mike for hopping on to give us 5 things that we need to know about Marshall. Again, Gasparilla Bowl, Monday, 2:30 p.m. on ESPN or at the Cows rented stadium, Raymond James Stadium. If you can get over there, enjoy the game. Last one of the year. Obviously, a 9-3 UCF team, double-digit wins for the 3rd straight year is a really good goal to get to. Yeah, I understand that a few of us, most of us are, probably had bigger aspirations, but there's still a lot of things to play for here. And then obviously we head into the offseason. So enjoy the last one for the next 9 months. I almost feel sad saying that, but enjoy the last football game of the 2019 football season. And obviously we'll be here on the Knightline Sports Network to break that all down for you and tell you what happened and talk a little bit about what we think happened. You can catch that. So it's a Monday game, so the schedule will be a little bit interesting, but you can catch Sons of UCF on Monday. We should be on right after the game, at least recording right after the game. And then you'll hear Andrew and Trace. You'll hear the AAC report with Jeff Allen. And don't forget about the morning after show, which is on 580 ESPN Radio. And then we turn to basketball season. But again, let's enjoy this last one. It's interesting. You heard Aaron's perspective. There are some bad feelings from the Marshall side. So, while it's not necessarily maybe the biggest name that we were thinking about, there is still some juice to this one. So get out there, enjoy the game, enjoy the last one, and tune into the Knightline Sports Network. We will be here year-round giving you UCF coverage, and no better place to find out what's going on with the Knights than right here. So until then, for all the good folks here at the Knightline Sports Network, we appreciate you for joining us for this entire football season, and we will talk to you all soon. Go Knights. Charge on.